Investors juggle market headlines amid a critical week for stocks. In today's cover story, once America's favorite place to shop, are malls out of style? Plus, the new growth areas for female entrepreneurs and the VIX on the rise, what that could signal about the Fed's next move. First Business starts now.
You're watching First Business. Financial news, analysis, and today's investment ideas.
Good morning, I'm Angela Miles. It's Tuesday, September 16th. In our first look, Alibaba's IPO gets a new price bump, a reported range of $66 to $68. The previous range was just up to $66, but it's not done yet. The official price will be set Thursday night. The Nasdaq's big drop. The tech-heavy index fell 49 points on Monday, the largest down move in 6 weeks. Money managers may be selling some of their tech holdings to pick up shares of Alibaba when it debuts on Friday. The Dow rallied 43 points. The S&P fell 2. Gold rose $3 and oil 53 cents. Macy's and Bloomingdale's are testing same-day delivery for items purchased online. And President Obama plans a dramatic attack on Ebola. Among the stocks that could get a boost, Tecmira Pharma. That company is developing a treatment. Shares trade around $19. We have professional trader Lincoln Ellis of Green Square Capital with us this morning. Good morning, Lincoln.
Good morning, Angie.
So will this week be all about Ali Apple or Apple Baba? Either way you look at it, it's definitely affecting the market already.
Yeah, technology really in the forefront here, both with Apple's announcements last week and Alibaba IPO set for Friday. The Nasdaq selling off a little bit. The idea there that investors are clearing the decks, raising some cash to get invested in Alibaba. That's a very interesting play this week.
We also have the Fed ahead.
The Fed ahead is all about a change in language, the data-dependent nature of whether or not they will raise interest rates. That's really what we're looking for. Any change in their data dependency and some foresight into whether or not we're going to get that 25 basis point raise in the first quarter or in the second quarter of 2015.
And what are your thoughts on Scotland? Even David Beckham is out warning, don't leave the UK.
Yeah, I have, in full disclosure, I have friends in both places, and both of them hoping that they stay unified and together. They're actually better together than they are separate, both in terms of economics, but both in terms of cultural and the like. So let's hope that they stay together and for financial markets and for togetherness reasons.
Well, thank you. Good to have you with us today.
Thanks, Angie.
Chuck Coppola has his ear to the ground on Apple for us today. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, Angie. A record number of pre-orders for its new iPhone 6 models sees Apple's stock ripening. More than 4 million pre-orders were placed in the first 24 hours that phones were for sale. So many orders, in fact, that the devices will be out of stock until October for some people. The new iPhones, the updated 6 and the slightly larger iPhone 6 Plus, go on sale Friday in retail outlets. Not surprisingly, Apple's stock remains strong at $101.
Shares of Radio Shack are trading back above $1. The stock closed Monday at $1.06 on word the chief financial officer has resigned after just 7 months on the job, and an advisor to the company is taking over in the interim. It's the latest management shakeup at Radio Shack as the retailer faces a possibility of bankruptcy. The Wall Street Journal reports the company is considering financing from a hedge fund and UBS.
When Mark Twain's cousin, James Ross Clemens, fell seriously ill in 1897, it was mistakenly reported that the American author was the one afflicted, prompting Twain to issue this handwritten correction. The report of my death was an exaggeration. So too may it be said about shopping malls, though plenty have written their epitaph. There are enough books, blogs, and boarded-up ghosts of suburbia's retail past to suggest that the mall is dead. 40 of them were bulldozed last year, some to make way for urban replicas of retail districts, but many more are finding new uses.
A lot of those malls now are becoming universities, they're becoming job centers, they're becoming medical centers. There's lots of other very good uses that those properties can also become.
Ellen Dunham Jones, an architecture professor at Georgia Tech, co-wrote a book, Retrofitting Suburbia. She says malls are in transition. In California, one is the new home of Google Glass, taking advantage of infrastructure already built. In other cases, malls are attracting grocers.
nowadays, a lot of malls are realizing, hey, people shop for groceries more often than they shop for clothes. This is good. This will bring more people in.
Some think things are even rosier for malls. The International Council of Shopping Centers says retailers plan to open more than 81,000 stores in the next 2 years. The retail analyst Jim Dion says, if anything, we have too many stores.
The United States is vastly overstored. We have more stores that per capita than any other first world economy in the world by a magnitude of 3 or 4.
Somewhere in the middle is ShopperTrack, which concludes that the internet helps shoppers narrow their search for specific items.
We probably have a lot less people who would travel to 5 or 6 stores looking for information about a product to make a purchase. They can do that well ahead of time.
More and more mall stores are embracing the technology that they are competing with, directing location-sensitive ads to your smartphone while you're in the mall via GPS.
Got to know when to fold them, and today is the day for Trump Plaza in Atlantic City. The casino opened in 1984, but it now becomes the 4th casino in Atlantic City to shut down this year, and more closings are on the way. The casino crash is blamed on competition coming from other areas, and in the case of the Trump Plaza, gamblers are no longer enamored with the glitz and glamour.
In its first 6 weeks of operation, General Motors Compensation Fund has already approved 19 wrongful death payouts. Until today, the automaker had publicly acknowledged responsibility for 13 deaths. The compensation fund was set up in the wake of GM's faulty ignition switch recalls. Those recalls have topped $2.6 million. If victims accept payouts from the fund, they give up their rights to sue the automaker. The fund has received 445 claims, including 125 for deaths.
In a scathing report by the New York Times, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is accused of not responding well to recalls. According to the Times, NHTSA did not take a leading role involving faulty ignition switches on GM models and instead deferred to the automaker. The report goes on to say the agency is spending about as much money rating new cars as it does investigating potentially deadly manufacturing defects. The agency responds that it has a proven record of aggressively investigating and pursuing recalls.
Many Americans may be missing opportunities to own a home. A new survey finds more Americans qualify for a mortgage than have attempted to get one. Wells Fargo says that 2/3 of respondents believe that a very good credit score was needed, and nearly half thought a 20% down payment was necessary to qualify for a loan. The reality is, through government-backed programs, even first-time buyers with subprime credit scores and as little as 3.5% of the purchase price for a down payment may qualify.
Microsoft leads the way in this morning's Deal Watch. The tech company is buying Mojang for $2.5 billion. Mojang is the maker of Minecraft. Gamers spent more than 2 billion hours playing Minecraft on Microsoft Xbox during the past 2 years. Microsoft shares traded last at $46. And TRW Automotive has agreed to be acquired by a German auto parts company for $11.7 billion. TRW is one of the largest safety parts producers. TRW will operate as a separate division within ZF. TRW shares ended the session at $103.
Among news from the drug sector, Gilead Sciences dropped 2.5% as the company allows generics of its hepatitis C drug Sovaldi. While effective, the drug has faced pushback for its extremely high cost, $84,000 for a full 12-week treatment. The generic version will be sold in 91 countries for less than $1,800. Also, Shire shares shed 99 cents yesterday. Regulators are considering its ADHD drug to be used for treating an eating disorder.
Urban Outfitters is the aim of criticism. The retailer was selling this vintage-looking Kent State sweatshirt. Well, back in the 70s, Kent State was the site of a tragic shooting with the National Guard killing 4 students during a peace protest. Kent State officials found the red splatter stains offensive. Urban removed the shirt from its website along with an apology, adding that the red stains are discoloration from the original shade of the shirt and the holes are from natural wear and fray. According to reports, that sweatshirt is rising in value on eBay.
Detroit's legal tab is rising quickly. The Wall Street Journal reports that the city has spent $126 million on outside advisors and that legal costs have grown by 4 times since December. A spokesperson for financial manager Kevin Orr says that the fees could rise to $150 million. Detroit is in the trial phase of its bankruptcy, which continues next month.
The gap in wealth between the rich and poor is taking a toll on more than just the middle class. It's also affecting governments. State governments have less funding for highways, education, and Medicare, according to a report issued by Standard & Poor's. It's because the wealthy are often adept at shielding their money from taxes, and because they spend a smaller percentage of their income, sales tax revenues are suffering.
A Coke product from the 90s is backed by popular demand. Coca-Cola is bringing its discontinued Surge citrus soda back to the market. Beginning this week, it'll be sold exclusively on Amazon.com. Coke says that the release is in response to a wave of nostalgia for the product. There's even a Facebook page dedicated to the product's launch.
On the economic calendar for today, a look at inflation with the PPI numbers coming up for August. That is the Producer Price Index. Also, the net long-term tick flows are out today. On the earnings calendar, Adobe Systems. Still to come, female-friendly, the sectors making the most sense for female entrepreneurs. Plus, make way for Alibaba, how money managers are advising clients ahead of the massive IPO. And breaking bread, how investors are responding to Olive Garden's recent bread basket caper. Olive Garden is defending its breadstick basket practice. Last week, activist investor group Starboard Value called Olive Garden wasteful because servers were dishing out too many breadsticks to customers. Darden Restaurants, which owns Olive Garden, responds the policy conveys Italian generosity and that the Olive Garden salad and breadsticks have been an icon of brand equity since 1982. Well, investors apparently like the idea of plenty of breadsticks on the table. Darden stock rose 4% yesterday. Still, Starboard is expected to lobby and try to gain control of Darden's board of directors at its upcoming annual meeting October 10th.
A hedge fund titan is taking IPO plans to Amsterdam. Activist investor Bill Ackman, who runs Pershing Square Capital, says he intends to raise $2 billion through an IPO that would list on Euronext Amsterdam. Shares will be offered to select investors at $25 each. The ticker symbol, PSH. Stock could IPO on October 13th. Two-week roadshow begins this week.
Alibaba is on the brink of setting a new world record as the biggest IPO. Joining us now, Matt Shapiro, president of MWS Capital. Good morning, Matt.
Morning, Angie.
Is this an IPO you would be interested in buying on Friday when it debuts?
A little bit, but only under special requests. And, you know, I know there's a lot of hype and hoopla. Yesterday, actually, a lot of the glamour names, the Facebooks, the Twitters, really sold off because so many institutional investors are actually clearing the deck, making room to participate in what is going to be a blockbuster deal. So, you know, I don't want to minimize that, but, you know, it has to be the right taste for you out there, you know, when you're watching this to decide whether you want to get involved.
Well, due to overwhelming demand, the company is now considering, according to sources, expanding the size of this IPO.
Yeah, it's going to be really big. But remember, its valuation is going to be relatively high, about 44 times estimated earnings. Now, of course, we've seen lots of these internet companies been very successful with these high valuations. But I'll tell you a little secret. If you don't quite get into the IPO, but you want to get involved, you can just buy Yahoo, because Yahoo is about 80% Alibaba stock at this point.
Now, this has been interesting. Yahoo shares have been ratcheting up into this Alibaba IPO. And the options market is now predicting about a 10% move either up or down this week in Yahoo stock. So that could get a little dicey, too.
Yeah, but you know, I think honestly, if you are a U.S. investor and you want to play the Alibaba angle, but don't want to actually get involved in the IPO, you can buy Yahoo all week, which is a very close proxy for the when issued market, if you will, of Alibaba. So, you know, it was down yesterday. It's going to work, you know, relatively on a one-to-one basis. And it's a way to actually buy into Alibaba with a little bit more transparency than getting involved in this IPO, which you just don't know where it's going to come out and you don't know what the pop is going to be.
As a money manager, will you buy any shares at all?
A little bit. I've had a couple requests, and we're going to try to get some. But retail investors are going to be a little bit lower down than the big institutional players, and I think that was really what happened yesterday in the market. A lot of the big growth hedge funds, their top holdings had to make room for a big weighting into Alibaba because it's going to dominate some of the indexes, and that's been really the play in investment this year, is buy into the big index-weighted big cap stocks.
Good to have you here, and thank you for your thoughts, Matt.
Thank you.
Coming up, a trader says unsettling news from the Fed may be hiding in the charts. And after the break, how women can get ahead by starting up their own companies. We'll be right back.
You're watching First Business, your source for financial news, analysis, and today's investment ideas. Coming to you daily from Chicago, the financial heartland of America, First Business offers a preview of the day's market action, trends in money, and timely consumer news. Don't be left behind. Get your daily dose of the leading financial news stories every morning. It's your money. Watch where it goes. Watch First Business.
Housekeepers at Marriott may be in for a raise from you. The hotel chain is encouraging guests to leave behind a little something extra by placing tip envelopes in each room. The Labor Department says in 2012, the median salary for housekeepers was $19,700, which breaks down to $9.51 per hour. A trade organization recommends leaving a tip each of the nights that you stay. Marriott shares traded up 9 cents on Monday.
Nearly 1 out of every 3 small businesses in America are owned by women. And this week in Chicago, the Women's Business Development Center holds its 28th annual Entrepreneurial Women's Conference to encourage advice and networking opportunities. Amelia Domenko of the WBDC, she's the president and CEO, joins us. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having us here.
What are some of the industries and professions and services that are hot right now for women-owned businesses to begin to get into?
As it relates to the generational shift, healthcare. As it relates to changing demographics, you have ethnic products. The biggest condiment in the United States today is salsa, not ketchup anymore. Technology, it's infusing it in everything that we do. And everyone has such a sensitivity that people are hiring printers that are eco-friendly. So there's a huge shift in the business opportunities.
Women-owned businesses, it's no secret, they grow at a slower rate than men. That often can discourage financing. What can women do to overcome this?
So it's a chicken and an egg. The reason they're growing at a slower pace is they don't have the same access to networks, contracts, and the financing to fuel those contracts. So what comes first? They have to have opportunity to meet the right people and to have an opportunity to bid on those contracts.
Speaking of networking and opportunities, the event happens tomorrow. It's September 17th, the Women's Business Development Center's annual Entrepreneurial Women's Conference. It's at McCormick Place in Chicago, and walk-ins are welcome.
Thank you.
Still ahead, worry wars. What's causing the VIX to rise? Chart Talk is next. Dan Deming of Equity Armor Investments joins us now. Dan, we should be singing that Carly Simon song, Anticipation, because between Apple, Alibaba, and the Fed, there's a lot to anticipate in this market. What's happening with the charts?
Yeah, I mean, tell you, Angie, like you said, there's a lot out there. We got the Fed and a couple of those big names that you talked about and what's going on there. But also looking at the charts, I'm telling you, the charts are kind of indicating a little bit of unsettling news as well, or expectation for something to change. Look at the Russell yesterday, the Russell 2000, down fairly significantly. We saw it break through its 50-day and 200-day moving average. So there's some weakness in the secondary market. As far as the other markets, we saw the S&P basically flat on the day, but we did see the VIX up significantly. So there is an anticipation here that this change in the Fed policy possibly coming on Wednesday could impact the markets.
Does this mean we'll have a lot of volatility this week? It's also an options expiration week.
It is. So there's always a possibility for that, Angela. So I think moving forward here, I mean, really, it's just dependent on the anticipation, like you said, rolling into this announcement on Wednesday. Either it's going to get some clarity, and then we could see vol come out of this market and see the market move to new highs. But if it doesn't give clarity, or if it signals a shift in what the outlook currently is built into the marketplace, then certainly it could build towards a volatile moment. And you can see, like I said, you're seeing that as far as the activity we're seeing in the VIX over the past couple of days.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Angie.
We are all out of time for today. Coming up on Wednesday, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie just signed a bill ending permanent alimony in that state. Other governors might follow suit. Find out why it's creating alimony angst on our show tomorrow. From all of us at First Business, thank you for watching.